Tony D and Little Jones asleep in the sunbeam in the front room, and this is a screenwriter's rant on Omicron Killer. The Omicron Killer is this dude. It's a movie that takes place during the pandemic or slightly thereafter. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books, links in the description. Comedy Horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys. Books 1 through 13 available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. Now, this appears to be a very low budget affair. There's some good, and then there's some kind of rough spots. I kind of like what they're going for. I'm not sure why he looks like he has a wig on, doesn't he? Doesn't he look like he's wearing a toque? But anyhow, that wasn't the critique. It starts off with a scene of this big guy getting mugged, and then he turns on the muggers and kills them all. And he becomes the Omicron Killer. I'm not sure why. A doctor injects him with something. I'm not sure if that causes him to go cuckoo bananas, or if he's already cuckoo bananas and the injection just helps him and then he just goes on a murdering spree. But this cop is after him, and this is his eventual mask. He upgrades to this later in the movie, apparently. That's kind of a badass mask, I gotta say. It kind of looks cool. And then at the same time, you're talking about, because I assume this takes place during Omicron. So I guess people are still wearing masks at this point, so they kind of have to look the other way. Oh, he's wearing a mask. Well, that's not weird, right? So, yeah. But he does kill a lot of people. There's a hot chick in it, in the bathtub. Good for you, filmmakers, for getting yourselves a naked hot chick to be in the film. She looks pretty cute, too. Lots of screaming. And then there's a cult, I guess, built around him or near him that either summons him or urges him or, I don't know, worships him. I kind of can't tell. He seems to be kind of separate from the cult, but then there's a cult. This is the cop that's after him. And, yeah, so there's a shootout between the cops and the cultist at one point. It's pretty wild. I mean, they're going for some cool stuff. I gotta say, I like the culty angle. I kind of like it, but there are definitely some drawbacks here. And the number one drawback is the acting. The acting's not great. So, the actor who plays the killer isn't bad, because he didn't really say much. He just starts killing people. Plus, he's got a mask on, so that kind of helps him too. Some of the other guys, though, not great. This guy was good. The mugger who gets killed in the beginning, he was pretty good. The cop is okay, but he's not, like, knocking it out of the park. Like, you know, he wants to be one of those cops that, like, I gotta find this killer. I'll do whatever it takes. And he's not bringing enough intensity to the role, in my view. She's pretty good. I assume that's Bei Ling, because she's a name actress who gets in it. She isn't bad as a nurse, but I don't think she's one of the main characters either. I think he's the main character, but he's not bad. He's just not. He's not bringing it to the screen. He's not dominating the screen. He needs to bring way more energy to this, I think. You know, they've given him a look. That's not bad. The lighting's okay, but it's not great. Like, when you have a character like this and you're trying to showcase him, you need to have a couple of shots of him, like, where he just, like, pops, you know? It's like he walks into a shot and it's like, oh yeah, this guy. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, we got to pay attention to him. he's kind of blended into the background. I don't think that's the actor's fault. Maybe a little, because I don't think his energy is up enough, but he's okay. But I think the filmmakers needed to have more focus on him in the shots. This guy, the doctor, wasn't great, I would say, and neither was the other cop who gets killed, but he's not in it long. And shots like this didn't really work for me. I kind of see what they're trying to do. They probably don't have a police car. They're probably trying to imply there's a police car. And so they had to shoot this cramped shot like this in order to make it work. But they did have an ambulance. I don't know if this is an actual, hospital room for this scene. Kind of doesn't feel like it, but, the actor who plays the other cop, he's not in it long, so that's forgivable. I'm not sure why he puts on the mask later. There's also like a police captain. She's okay, but could be different. Doesn't seem right for the role. Doesn't totally seem on point for the casting. And this background doesn't sit right. That doesn't scream to me police captain or police station. Yeah, it's not really working for me. Because it's too much paper, Maybe in the 80s you could have gotten away with this, but not now. Need something more. Maybe a grease board. The hot chick is good. She's good. The cultists are okay, but again, I think it's a lighting situation. When you do cultists like this, you got to give them ominous lighting. I don't really think they're achieving that in this, because they're shooting it in the day, and it kind of makes them look like weirdos standing in a cemetery. I think this needed to be shot at night, with lights on the ground up, like that is the most obvious way. But maybe this is intentional. But see, you can tell, I think, these aren't silk robes. These robes kind of look cheap to me, and the rope, and doesn't make a whole lot of sense on top of that. Like at night, you can kind of get away with it, because you kind of have the implication, well, they sneak into the cemetery at night, nobody sees them because it's dark, and then they do their secret ceremonies, and then they sneak away. In daylight like this, people are going to look over to the cemetery and go, who's that in a cemetery? You know what I mean? So it kind of doesn't work, but that being said, it's kind of an interesting... See, this is a nice shot of him. Needed more of that, I think, in the trailer. Or the problem is, it needed that in the shots of him moving around with a gun and stuff like that. And or it needed like a shot of this, a shot like this where he's in a group of people and he pops. You know what I mean? To show you like visually he's the main guy. So here's some more cops, I think. But they do kill a ton of people in this trailer. I'll say that. Here's something a little more ominous. In terms of the lighting. I guess Bei Ling gets killed. So there's a lot of screaming, a lot of killing. Now, plot-wise, I don't know if the Omicron killer really makes any sense. Like, I get that, okay, that's kind of a funny shot. Okay, like, I guess it's a joke. Like, the Omicron killer. Like, because the disease is such a killer. But Omicron, I've heard from other YouTubers who are less reliable YouTube, that, wasn't as bad, let's say. I hope I don't get flagged for this thing. I'm talking about a movie, YouTube. This is just in a movie. So I'm not sure that title really works, but I guess they started shooting this 2 years ago in the midst of it and thought, oh, yeah, we'll use that because people know what that is. So I don't know how you do a sequel to this if it's successful, right? Like, I don't think you could do the Omicron Killer Part 2. I don't think you can. On top of the fact that, for the very same reason I'm a little paranoid I'll be flagged for this, YouTube, this whole trailer could be flagged for some reason, right? Couldn't it? So, would I watch it? Yeah, I would watch this. Because I think they're trying. I think they're genuinely making a good attempt at something different. They're killing a ton of people, so there's going to be a lot of action. I like the dynamic of, the killer. I don't know if they've established him as a killer in that scene yet, but he walks into the scene, a bunch of muggers harass him, and he turns the tables on him and kills them. Because that gives you, at least at first, oh, I'm rooting for that guy, that big guy. Those muggers are terrible, and tried to hurt him, and he just turned the tables. Oh, he went a little too far. He killed them, but you know what I mean? Like, at least you can sort of get behind that. And then as the movie progresses, obviously you'll be like, oh, he's killing everybody now. That's not good. But, like, that's an interesting way to maybe set it off, right? So you have this character who's, unstable. Maybe he's been picked on his whole life, and finally it just snaps in that moment. And at first it's kind of justified, but then as the movie progresses, it's like, dude, stop. So it doesn't make him a total, like, psychopath who kills for no reason or just kills. Oh, he's crazy, he kills people. Like, at least it gives him a little bit of depth. So, first act, I would imagine maybe it starts that way. Maybe we see a little bit of the background of this big guy not really having a good time in life. People picking on him, calling him names. Walks into some muggers, ends up killing him. Ends up injured, I think, because he ends up in the hospital. Second act, I think they're investigating, and one of the cops realizes that this big guy has maybe killed people before. Maybe he's wanted for previous murders, and he got away. Because there's a scene in the trailer where he's calling somebody and saying, I'm trying to get through to, like, so-and-so. Tell him to be careful. He's watching over a killer or something like that. And then, of course, the big guy wakes up and kills the other cop. Which, again, that's not bad. I just don't know if, maybe the plot's a little too ambitious for their filmmaking abilities, that kind of thing. But that's a good thing, I think, because then I think this will be a cut above the normal low budget movie. And then the third act, of course, they'll either kill this guy or he dies kind of mysteriously, like falling down a well and they don't find his body, like that kind of thing, so they can keep it open for a sequel. Or maybe they capture him. I don't know. It would be funny to see another sequel. See them try to work the mask thing in it somehow. All right, let's read the write-up. Check out the trailer for The Omicron Killer, a movie starring Bei Ling, Felissa Rose, Lynn Lowry, Rob Emmer, and Paul Shadow? Pog Shadow. I don't know how to pronounce that. A copycat serial killer, killing his last victim on the anniversary of the death of the original killer. Weird. Decides to retire from his life of murder. Okay. I'm going to retire to Florida. That'll be pleasant. But his retirement doesn't last long. Attacked by vicious thugs, left severely wounded and hospitalized, the Omicron killer returns, hell-bent on vengeance, as he embarks on a new reign of terror. Huh. So, I don't think this is a sequel, but they're setting up a history. Again, that's a good move. Good move. Because it gives you something to draw from. It gives it gives the character chasing him something a reason to go, oh, he's a killer. He's a killer. He's the Omicron killer. We've had him the whole time. That's cool. Okay. The film comes from writer-director Jeff Knight, co-written by Knight with Poe Shadow? I don't know how to pronounce that. Who also plays the title character. Oh, the big guy. The film is executive produced by Richard Bernstein and stream producer Chris Guttadaro, along with Chris Lazaro, former producer at Fuzz on the Lens Productions. Stream Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3. Ah, finally something I recognize. Omicron Killers opens in select theaters. I don't think this will get very expansive distribution, but I think they're trying. I really do. So I would say, if you like these kinds of movies, this could really be a cut above the rest in terms of its plot and characterization. Again, the acting, it's okay, but it's not really selling it. I think they needed, I don't know. I think they needed to kick it up. They needed somebody with a little more charisma to be one of these characters. The guy who's playing the killer, he looks scary. I'll tell you that, just because he's so big. But they needed like one of the cops to be a standout. And I think he kind of blends in. I think the lead cop kind of is blending in a bit. But, you know, what are you going to do? I mean, it's a low-budget movie. I think they're doing the best they can. And I like that. I appreciate that. I mean, there seems to be genuine effort in this movie. So I would see it. I would see it. It's also not overly bloody like the Terrifier. That looks too bloody for me. It looks like something that'll have a mix of story and action and other things. So, yeah, the Omicron Killer. I think it could surprise you. And that's it for me, Tony D, and Little Joan in the front room of the house. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be at Nerdfest tomorrow from 10 to 4 in Swedesboro, New Jersey. So join me then. Hope to see you there. We'll see you in the next one.